Hey, this is Chris with T Arcades. I want to do a short tutorial today on installing the Death Star 2 on your premium and LE Star Wars pinball machines from Stern. If you'll give me a minute to turn some lights on, get set up, and I'll pull the glass off, we'll get started. Thanks. I've got the glass off, playfield pulled up. I would always recommend to power off the machine and unplug it before doing any kind of service, especially when you're unplugging PCBs or doing any kind of work on the playfield or the machine itself. Just to be safe, you don't want any damage to your machine. Let's go ahead and look at what you need for today. We're gonna have to have a lot of rags. Make sure that your playfield is clean. Make sure that you're not losing anything down the trough or anything sliding away from you, getting lost. You'll need a set of cutters. Number 2, Phillips head. I always use a magnet, bring that with you. You'll need a couple of sockets. You'll need a 11/32 and a 5/16. You'll also need a handful of zip ties to finish up, make it nice and neat. You'll also need your new Death Star 2 along with 2 screws that come with it. These are number 6 screws, 1/4 inch. So that's for the PCB to screw into the back of the Death Star. We're going to go ahead and remove this, and we're going to replace that with a Death Star 2. So let's go ahead and get started. First off, you want to open your Death Star up. You have 2 clips for the spring. You've got one over here, and you've got one here. The best way I've always seen to release the springs is just simply to get your finger down below it, push down, and it will come out. Same over here, push down on it from underneath and it will pop out. So this way you don't have to keep on moving this, it's already open. You want to go ahead and remove this top plastic piece. This is a 5/16. You want to be careful with any plastic that you're not hitting it, that you're not tightening it too much and breaking it. You always be careful that you're not losing any parts. This is why you have towels down at the end, making sure that you're not losing them down the trough. Okay, here's the wiring that you need to be able to move. You're going to reroute this from the printed circuit board that's right here. You're going to reroute this from behind here up underneath this hinge over the top of the wire form, and you're going to bring it back over to this side for the new Death Star 2. So let's get the Death Star out. There's 3 screws on this side and there's 3 on this side. Use number 2 Phillips. With a magnet always. That side's pretty easy. I'm going to disconnect this circuit board. Just pulls off. There's your circuit board for it. You're going to want to use the same number 2 Phillips to get this out. Okay, and here's your LED panel for the lights. You're going to retain this. This goes on your new Death Star. You want to go ahead and take these screws out. I was incorrect. This is a number 1, so make sure that you have a number 1 screwdriver. Again, with a magnet, you don't want to lose anything. In fact, I should have a towel up underneath this right now. Don't need a screw dropping down in an insert or down inside the back of the playfield. And these are machine screws. Oh, and that's exactly why. Okay, so I had to take a little break. When I took this side of the Death Star off, it had the LED board on there and the bracket for it with a couple of machine screws. Well, these machine screws are number 1s, so I need to make sure that you've got a number 1 screwdriver as well. I took these out without this towel there, and I did exactly what I said not to do. I dropped one of these screws down on the playfield and it disappeared. Took about 35 minutes to find it. Had to take the playfield basically out and up. I'll put photos of it in there in the comments. And I had to search and search, and with a screwdriver and a magnet, and had to find this. I finally did find it. I also found an additional screw, which stern must have dropped at some point, and it was inside one of the mechanisms. When I tipped it up, when I tipped up the playfield, it fell to the back of the inside playfield and the rail in the back, and it was stuck back there while I got it out from underneath with a magnet. So it's great. I ended up with an extra screw, but I also got this fixed. So let's move on. What you need to do is with this wire harness, this harness goes up underneath this hinge side, and it's connected to the LED board on the side here. So you want to be able to cut this white zip tie loose. We're going to keep on using a towel now because I will lose parts. Took that one off. You'll also have to take off a black one that is mounted. This black one is mounted. You'll have to take those off as well. This you might be able to leave. So let's see what happens. So we'll take this one off. Okay, we got that off as well. You go ahead and take your harness line with the connector back underneath this hinge. And you want to be able to bring it this way, connect it here, connect it down the side, but it ultimately has to come through this one of the hinges. You need to bring it through this side, and it's going to wrap just like that. So we're going to put a couple of zip ties on here, and this will bring it up the back side like this, and that's what you'll end up with. We also have photos of that, which I can show you. So we're going to run another zip tie here. And a zip tie through a hole in this bracket and tie it to the other set of wires on there. So now this makes it nice and neat over there. Go ahead and clip these off, get rid of them. There you go. So this is where this harness needs to be now, and you need to have enough slack on this to be able to plug into the new Death Star 2. So with that done, the other adjustment that will be necessary is these two bumpers. They're rubber bumpers that these have a 11/32 socket on there. You want to go ahead and loosen those up. I believe it's 11/32. Yes, it is. You want to loosen each one of these up because you will have to adjust them out. There we go, just loosen that. Loosen these. You don't need to take them off. I just know they have to go in the other direction. It was all adjusted to the left. You need to adjust it all to the right. It's almost the opposite of what it was. So I'm going to go ahead and get it pretty close anyways. Keep it loose so that I can adjust it later. That's one of the biggest things that you've got to do. This makes it so that when the Death Star clamps shut, that it doesn't hit solid hard, that it'll hit these bumpers instead. Take some of the shock out of it. So now we can go ahead and put in the new Death Star. You've got 3 screws on this side. You have 3 screw holes here. You also have a tab that fits in this very bottom one here. It's a little tabbed in piece right there. So when this goes on, this side's pretty easy over here. Not much in the way. I do need to get rid of all of this though first. This has got to go now because it is in the way, at least of the hinges. There we go. It's going to fit just like that. Okay. So we'll get the original screws that were in it. We start with this top one. It's just the easier one to get to. These don't have to be torqued down tight. You're going to adjust these for play. You keep them kind of loose, snug them up, but not too loose. Okay, with this one, you're going to have to put the LED board on, and you're going to use the 2 screws that came with this. They're number 6 and are 1/4 inch. You have the 2 new screws right there, and you have the board. This fits in right where those screws are, and it just fits right in place. It's got a little bumper in the back to keep it up the same distance right there. And this just fits right in. Really simple install. Great. And these are number 2 screw. You don't want to really tighten them up. Just snug them. You're fine. You just snug them up. Great. Okay, now when you get the other side on, again, I start with this top one right there, but we're going to want to plug this in first. This is where it gets a little tricky because this harness here has to stay inside that hinge. It has to stay right in that area of the hinge because there's a channel right here opened up for that wiring to go, and it has to be in there. It can't come over and get cut off by these screws. It has to be right there. So you want to kind of hold it there while you're putting this one in, just to make sure that you got everything where it needs to be. You go ahead and plug this in. Gets a little tight here because you're trying to put that in. So move that over. Okay. And again with the top screw first. I always check several times to make sure that wiring is not getting bound up. Okay, so all those screws are in now. Great, and this comes together, but now there's some adjustment that's going to be needed. We're pretty close. Let's make sure the bumpers are not going to be a problem. Yeah, that needs to go in further. You can see around the back side where it is, and if it hits first, that's probably pretty good right there. This one, maybe a little more, bring it closer. That might be good right there. Yeah, that's going to be good right there. So you go back in and tighten those up. Okay, here we go. Now I got to go ahead and put those springs back on. The springs are right there and there still. You got to be able to get those back behind the piece where it was. Right there. I always do it from the bottom, just easier. There we go. Got them in. It's pretty close. Try and adjust these screws a little more. Get a better fit. That's really close. Yep. There you go. This is a pretty solid make. Comes together pretty well. Lights are all hooked in. Yep. Now we put the explosion piece back on. And these are 5/16. With these plastics, a lot of times I do them finger tight, and that's it, because you will break them. There you go. And this is a completed install.
Remember, the Force will be with you.